Don't do this work, because you will just hurt people. And even if you're an attorney, I mean, because attorneys for the most part, right, they don't have souls, right? I kid because I care, sort of. So let's finish up here talking about the angry client, and then let's transition into vicarious trauma. So the angry client, I've been dealing with angry people, right, for a long, long time. Now, let me be really clear. What I mean by that is not that domestic violence is about anger. But guess what? It's a tool they use a lot. And I also work with a lot of people who are personality disordered. And guess what? Folks with personality disorders very often have issues with anger because their patterns of interacting with the world are rigid. And when they don't work, do they look at themselves and say, how could I deal with this situation more effectively next time? No. They go, what's your problem? Does that make sense? So what can you do? Well, I have some keys. Now, I hope that you're starting to see a theme here. Do you like the face? Yeah. I drew that myself. It's actually a self-portrait. So validate the experience. Yeah, you look really pissed off. I can imagine it's got to be incredibly frustrating to have somebody eat your Jello. That's, you know what? I might be as pissed off as you are. Notice I said might, because personally I think Jello is gross, but. So validate the experience. Let the person know you're aware of the fact that they are pissed off. I am just so pissed. Yeah, I can tell. But you have to use soft eyes. You have to use soft eyes. Because if you don't set your boundaries with soft eyes, you can't contain the blast. Now, I was a resident director for many years. That's the person, and I was a resident assistant as well. If you've been on a university or college campus, you know that there's these students that are hired to, kind of enhance the development of their fellow students and make them pour out their beer. And so I was dealing with an individual who was verbally accosting one of my residents. They were from off campus. And I intervened in very soft eyes. Hey, and I can't remember what I said. Blah, 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 conflict management, conflict management, conflict management. And so this person goes their own way. And as they walk away, I noticed that they had been, in stealth mode with a bottle of beer. And as they walked off, I said, oh, hey, and I need you to empty the canister or the bottle. And he turns around, dumps it out, and then throws it at me. Now, I'm a pretty skilled guy, but I was young. And I said, you're not going to get very far in life being a dick. That's what I said. That is not containing the blast, people. What do you suppose his response was? He turned around and said, you're calling me a dick? I mean, he went Al Capone on me. You're calling me a dick? Right? And he, can I just approach? He took the bottom of his palm and he punched me. I suffer from tinnitus and issues, pain in my jaw to this day. Now, I don't hold him responsible for that. That was my inability to manage my own emotion, because he was gone. He was gone. So if I had continued to use soft eyes and set the boundary with soft eyes, I never would have said that. What would I have said? Thank you. Because he poured the bottle out. He did empty the alcohol. Which, if you've ever worked with drunk people, that's stunning that he actually followed the direction. Right? I was with a colleague of mine who told a football player, he should pour out the beer, and he went like this and poured it on her head. Right? I told her, I said, he's not going to get very far in life being such a dick. Then it was funny. So what I mean by contain the blast is, you want to think of an angry person as a powder keg, and you do not want to be the one that lights the fuse. Now, right, I've worked in this field a long, long time. I don't blame myself for my own victimization. I simply hold myself responsible for lighting the powder keg. I blame him for accosting me, for assaulting me, but I blame myself. I absolutely, I need to be responsible for the fact that I insulted the guy quite intentionally. And so I now always refer back to that as a learning piece. And now when I get angry people, I remember him. And I remember soft eyes, contain the blast, contain the blast. I don't want to do anything to encourage radiation. And lastly, don't be a dick. I just love this. I don't read my slides, but for future reference, the passive-aggressive Facebook status is much more effective if you use it before you block me. Look, you're human, and I know none of us likes to acknowledge that we're passive-aggressive, but you're human. So one of the things that we all have a tendency to do with angry people is we have a tendency to try to screw them in fun little ways. Right?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yeah, I just, look, I like to think of myself as just as blunt can be. You can't do that with an angry client. You just can't do that without consequence. Significant negative consequence. So, you know, I had a guy in my office who was just as livid can be. He wasn't even angry at me. But he was so, God, I just wanted him out of my office. And he said, well, you know, you need to call me back. And I was this close to saying, well, you know, I'm actually about ready to take a 6-week vacation in Africa. I'm going to be unavailable by phone. Right? I wanted to come up with some reason why I couldn't call him back and give him some basic information about his evaluation. And I had to remember, Chris, don't be a dick. Again, I apologize for that word, but that's just, you know, when I work with abusive men, I try to simplify things. And I used to teach folks that compassion and aggression are like oil and water, right? And we're one day away from MLK Day. If you're in this field, he's probably a hero of yours. And, right, his whole saying of hate can't conquer hate or overcome hate. Only love can do that. Right? Darkness can't overcome darkness, only light can do that. When you're working with an angry person, you can't counter that with any hostility. You have to counter that with compassion. You have to counter that with soft eyes. And I know it sounds preachy and it sounds low, but really think about the science. They're going to read your facial expression. They really are. And if you get the lightest, the snippiness on your face, they're going to read it. Mirror neurons. Because they're wicked familiar with those particular expressions. So, I kind of went fast through that one because, again, we're using the same principles now. Validate, express understanding, set boundaries with soft eyes, meet needs when you can. Same thing for personality disorder. Exact same thing for personality disorder. I heard a guy give a workshop once on how to deal with people with personality disorders, and it wasn't for therapists, it was just for the lay people. And he used the term syrupy warmth. I was like, oh, I love that. You just want to smother them with honey. Right? Like, oh, yeah, okay. Set the boundary, though. You gotta set the boundary. So, I hope you've heard the first theme was this notion of have organizational awareness and create organization where there is none. If you don't have a team, make one. Look, it's like, you very often, if you work for an organization, we tend to get complacent. If you work for an organization, you can still go out and build your own team. Hey, I'll tell you right now, I will be on your team free of charge. I'm going to give you my email address. I'm happy to also give you my cell phone number. If you need to consult on something, call me. I have good boundaries. I won't talk to you for 35 minutes. Does that make sense? So we'll have a 15, 10-minute conversation, and if I want to talk to you for longer, I will. But trust that. Trust that I have good boundaries. I work with NCVLI. You have to have good boundaries. They will suck the life out of you. I kid. I kid. That's totally a joke. That's totally a joke because Meg's now going to kick my ass when I get home.
I was going to say, that's going on the wall of the weird.
Oh, yes. Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit.